Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. I'd like to quote one of my favorite characters from one of my favorite books, The Vampire Lestat. The prince is never going to come, everyone knows that, and maybe Sleeping Beauty is just dead. Our campaign is Horror on the Orient Express, and this is episode 73. I'm your game master, and Jeff Wilkins will be giving the recap. So, let's begin our journey into the darkness. Jeff?
Thanks, Sam. In our last episode, we found ourselves in a bit of a dangerous spot. We started off with a boat ride that Frank seemed to insist on. His reasoning was that maybe they could see the bloody red tower from the coastline better than if we were walking through the streets of the large city of Constantinople or Istanbul. But sometimes a good plan is just a good plan in theory. Turns out that it was a pleasant trip, but we did not see any sign of the red tower. Next on our agenda, we were scheduled to have an afternoon meeting with the character named Baylab. We're going to meet him at one of the bathhouses near the bazaar. He has a reputation for knowing what's going on in the city. We head to the bathhouse. Dr. Keith remains with Fayer at a shisha lounge, as she's not quite ready to head into the men's bathhouse just yet. Eldridge and Frank head in and meet with Baylab character. He gets us though for quite a bit of money first before he tells us anything of use. We, or Eldridge, pays the man, and he starts to tell us what he knows about the Skinless cult. He suspects that they are behind the missing children that was in the newspaper recently. He tells us the shunned mosque is, quote, nearby. But just as he's about to tell us where it is, he's suddenly ambushed by a man with a knife. There's multiple men who are armed with knives. Baylab is mortally wounded, and as he dies before he can give us any further information. The men with the knives are eager to escape from the steam room, as are we. Chaos is all about. We manage to grab our clothes and slip out the back door while we get dressed in the alley. Just as we're about to slip away, we hear more yelling coming from inside the bathhouse. Eldridge is all set to go in and fight whatever might be in there. Frank is a little more cautious, but follows. Inside, they see a horrific sight. Baylab's skin has sloughed off and is now coming after Eldridge. The fight goes on, and after a few knife stabs from Eldridge, a few gunshots from Frank, we kill this thing using mostly the hot coals from the steam bath. Dr. Keith is outside and is talking with the local police in an attempt to distract and hinder them from catching Frank and Eldridge. She buys them enough time to slip out again unnoticed. The police do interview us all, but we manage to dodge their suspicions, and we head back to the hotel to regroup. Eldridge is frustrated and is set on heading off into the bad section of town tonight in the hopes of finding someone who knows where the shunned mosque is. Just as we're about to get to the hotel, Dr. Keith sees another bear walking with a gypsy-type fellow, and that brings us up to date.
All right, so you are back at your hotel. It is in the evening. What would you guys like to do?
Good question.
Well, I still want to go into the shadier part of town tonight, so I suggest I'm going to go up to my room and take a nap, probably. Are any of you gentlemen joining me, or is it just going to be me and Fair?
I'll join you. What time of day is it?
It's afternoon. I thought we said it's like 4 because we met at 2.
Yeah, it's probably about 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think we were heading back to the hotel. We were going to go, I think, grab dinner or something.
Now, did you ask Fair if he would come with you?
We talked because we divulged everything to Fair. And I remember saying that because we talked about the fact that we can't speak Turkish, and how else are we going to find out where the Shed Mosque is?
Okay.
But that was really it. I'd pay him extra for his time.
Okay. And you say you disclosed just about everything. I'm trying to remember what you told him.
We told him about the cult, and then we told him about that we were kind of investigating them. We didn't tell him about the statue.
Okay. All right, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are back at your hotel. We'll say that it's about 5 o'clock. You've gotten something. You're eating something, and as you are sitting there, a couple of hours now have transpired since the incident at the bathhouse. You notice a car pull up. It's kind of distinctly colored, and you're as soon as you see a policeman getting out of it, you realize that's, I guess, what their police cars look like. You can see this just outside the door, and he comes into the hotel and goes up to the concierge, and you see the concierge immediately point over to you guys.
I sigh.
The policeman comes up to you as you're sitting there, and he says, "Are you Dr. Elizabeth and Eldridge and Frank?"
Yes.
He seems to know who you are.
I stand up and shake his hand.
He says, "You were involved in an incident at the bathhouse earlier today, and don't worry, there's nothing out of the ordinary here. It's just that the incident came to the attention of the commissioner, and he wants to see you." He says it's an urgent matter, and he hands you like a letter that just basically tells you where the place of the consulate is, which you already know where it is.
Can we ask what this is about? We were not really involved in the matter at all.
I don't think that it has to do with the matter. He would like to talk to you about something else. He seemed unaware that you were in town, in the city.
I kind of squint my eyes and then look to the others.
I think he's the only one, because everybody else knows when we're in this town.
I nod and I say thank you, and I'm going to take the letter from him.
It's the letter itself is signed Sir Douglas Rutherford.
Rutherford. Okay.
Is there a time that we need to see?
It says he's indicating that as soon as possible, immediately, if possible.
I look to. I say, officer, if you'd like, we will be accompanying you back to the consulate if possible.
That was my idea. Yes.
We just need some time to kind of prepare.
Of course.
We'll meet you outside. And I kind of give a half smile.
Okay.
As he walks away, I turn to the other two and I say, "Gentlemen, I have a suspicion this could be a trap."
Well, on the one hand, it does seem rather unusual, but on the other hand, he I mean, it is the British consulate.
True.
Surely they couldn't be involved.
Well, they could, but the thing here is that we should always. I mean, we're already paranoid in this matter. We might as well just go and see what we can find out. We have no real other leads anyway. If you wanted to go to sort of the shadier part of town, perhaps this might be a way for us to gather information that we need.
It's possible.
We just need to be extremely cautious.
Maybe. I kind of wag my finger a little bit because I was mentioning this to Frank and Elizabeth earlier. You were sleeping. You were taking a nap upstairs. While we were walking through town earlier today, we discussed a little bit about Dr. Smythe and where he may be. I mentioned that usually when you enter into a foreign port, you go to the consulate and you let them know that you are there in case you end up not turning up, and then the consulate knows to look for you. Maybe Smythe, if he was on a parallel journey, was at the consulate, or at least signed in.
That could be possible. Besides, if we're going there, assuming that we get there safely, I don't think that he's going to try something in the middle of the consulate. So,
no.
Again, we should just be cautious and keep our eyes open.
Let's try not to divulge too much information either. I made that mistake with Baylab. I kind of shrug. Lead the way, Dr. Elizabeth.
Well,
all right.
Yes, let's leave forthwith.
Is everyone armed?
Pardon?
Is everyone armed?
As armed as I can be. I have my knife.
Yes, I'm taking my dainty little pistol with me.
I'm just going to bring my medical equipment.
Okay. So you head out to the front steps. The policeman holds the door open for you, and you get inside his little car, and he drives you over to the consulate, which isn't very far. And also he opens the doors for you so that you can get out. And he takes you inside. You see that there are quite a few people working here. There are guards. There's a mixture of British and Turkish people. There are the Turkish people tend to be in more like servitude positions. Butler, waiter, maid. The officers are all British. You're taken, and there's he knocks on the door, and the door is opened, and it's a nicely appointed little office, I suppose, with books on the wall and very fancy furniture, and the deputy high commissioner, Sir Douglas Rutherford, is sitting there. He's a tall, thin man with gray hair and a gray beard and mustache. And he immediately stands up and says, "Yes, please, come inside." And he says to the policeman, he says, you wait outside. And there's a few people in the room also, servants and stuff like that. And he says, leave, go out, all of you, everybody out. And you get the impression from him in that moment that he doesn't want anybody to hear what he's going to say to you. Maybe he doesn't trust anybody. He's please come in, make yourselves comfortable.
I'm going to extend my hand to shake his hand.
Yes, quite. Yes.
And I'll shake it firmly and sort of do like a Trump handshake where I sort of pull him into me.
Okay. And he's like, "Oh yes, I've heard of you Americans. You have these very strong handshakes. That's very good."
And of course, what I'm attempting to do is to check his skin.
Oh, he seems normal.
Okay.
He seems. Do a psychology roll for me.
I failed by 2 points.
The rest of you can do psychology rolls on the man.
I'm great at this. Nope. 47 out of 10.
Oh no, 56 out of 40.
I'll do 2 points luck then.
33 out of 50.
Okay. Eldridge, you notice that he is very, very British. He's got that very stiff upper lip, sort of look to him, very proper, but there is something bothering him. And it's underneath, but you can sort of see it in some of his mannerisms. He says, I'd forgive me for interrupting your whatever it is you were doing, your meal. I heard about your involvement at the bathhouse, but that's not why I'm calling you. You see, I've heard of Professor Elizabeth before. In fact, I have one of her books on the shelf up there.
Oh, I say, how
I've
unusual.
I have been, sirs, madam, sirs, I've been extremely desperate the last few hours. My son has been kidnapped, and I'm afraid he's another victim of the terrible thing that's going on in our city with children being kidnapped. And I don't know where I can turn. I don't trust any of the Turks working here, and I don't trust half my staff. And when I heard that you were in town, and I know that these must be your friends, you must all be associated with that investigation club in England, based out of England. Most of us have heard of it. I mean, most of us have heard of it. I don't know what these people think. You get the distinct impression that he doesn't like the Turks at all. But he says, I don't know who else I can trust or turn to, except somebody who amounts to being almost a total stranger, but whose reputation precedes them. I've heard that you investigate these things and hopefully find out who has my son.
Perhaps you might furnish us with a more detailed account of the matter.
Yes, well, my son, James, was playing in the garden, and the only people who were near him would have been some of the Turkish house servants. And he was just gone. He was kidnapped. We're not exactly sure. Nobody actually saw it happen, but I suspect that the Turks are behind it. Or they've, there are a number of groups in this city that are dangerous. There's one in particular that's bothered us and our police system for a long time, and we haven't made it public, but we think that they may be behind this whole thing. I was not surprised, you being investigators, that you were speaking with Baleb. Baleb has used to prove to be a source of information even for us. And I'm sorry to hear that he was murdered. But since you were there, and I have no idea what you are investigating here, but if you would please, whatever that investigation is, put it aside for a while and look for my son. He's now that he's sort of told you that, you can see how incredibly upset he is.
But what happened? Please tell us.
Let's see. I'll just read what it says here. Young Rutherford, his name is James, age 9. He was last seen in the embassy garden. Sir Douglas suspects the involvement of the servants. And that's really all that he knows.
Did he go missing?
What's that?
When did he go missing?
Yesterday afternoon. I've been
Yesterday afternoon.
looking very hard to find somebody who can help me. So I hope that I'm not just jumping at the fact that I know a little something about you. But at this point, I'm desperate. If you'd like, we could call the staff. You could question them.
Yes. Perhaps if we spoke to anyone who was present, or who find out who was the last person who saw the child. I hate to exploit this meeting in any way, but I know this probably isn't directly connected, but and I apologize in advance for veering off on a tangent, but have you, I wonder, ever heard of something called the Shunned Mosque?
The Shunned Mosque?
Yeah.
I've heard of the Red Mosque.
The Red Mosque?
I knew you were brilliant, but we've long suspected that the Red Mosque is like a locale, a meeting place for these people. We've searched it and not found anything, but it's in a very bad part of town. It's not used any longer. So shunned, yes, you could say that it was shunned.
I quickly look around the room and I say, quick, can you tell us the address?
Well, what part of, what area, directional wise, is this Red Mosque?
Well, it's actually just north of the bathhouse that you were at.
Specifically.
He actually shows you a map of the city and pinpoints it.
Perfect.
For you. He says, now that's a dangerous area, but if you suspect that they have something to do with it, and I do too, I just have no way to confirm that, I would definitely help. Now, as I say, our police have searched it, but I don't trust our police either.
So basically, they said that they searched it and found nothing, but you yourself haven't confirmed it.
Or they may have searched it and found nothing because those people, whoever they are, didn't want them to find anything.
Right.
When you say you've long suspected this place to be the center of something,
yes, many people disappear in that area. There's a high crime rate, a very high crime rate. It does seem to be a center focus.
And it's no longer in use, this mosque as
Correct.
A mosque. It's no longer a place of worship.
Yes.
Do you have any idea why?
Just a very bad neighborhood. People would rather go somewhere else.
Is there anything specific why you're not trusting young men?
I believe that there is some sort of a subversive group. I don't know what their intentions are, but they're a criminal element. They definitely commit crimes, murders, robberies. I'm not sure what they've done, but there have been some strange mutilations involved too in the city. And I'd like to say that we've narrowed it down, but as I say, when we've searched there, we found nothing. We don't have a name for them, but there's definitely some sort of a crime ring. And now with all these children going missing, unfortunately, there's a lot of unsolved crime in this city. And the lower down on the totem pole you are, I mean, we know about crimes that happen to British citizens, but we don't know about half the stuff that happens to the Turks. We don't really care, but That the Red Mosque is one of the centers where we suspect they meet, but we haven't caught them at it. And people definitely who live in that area don't frequent that place. And they certainly don't go out at night. And they certainly don't go out there with money. I just suddenly realized that I keep staring at your little pictures down there on the bottom.
Is that the type of area that you would have officers patrolling on a regular basis, or
no? It would be far too dangerous even for our policemen to patrol that area. And it's not a British centric area, so we're not that, You definitely get the impression from this man that he's xenophobic. He probably would much rather be back in England, and he's got a strong prejudice against them.
So may I ask, you suspect then that your son may have been abducted by this same organization?
I do. My son disappeared, and other children have disappeared. There's now 15, 16, including my son.
How old is your son?
I'm sorry?
How old is your son?
He's 9.
Were the other children around the same age?
Around the same age. I think the youngest one that was taken was 7. The oldest one was like 14.
I think we should definitely talk to the servants, particularly anyone who was with your son shortly before he was abducted.
Right. Bailey, he yells out, and a policeman comes inside, and he says, "Round up the house, the consulate staff." No, not the British. No, not the British ones, just the Turkish ones.
When you say that you don't trust your own men, are you saying you don't even trust your? Are you talking just of the Turks, or of all of your
there's
men?
Definitely a level there. I don't trust any of the Turks, but we use them to clean and cook and stuff like that. But I trust very few people. I trust Bailey. But then I knew him in England. I knew him during the war. But some of these people, I just don't know them. And I'm afraid that this criminal organization may have infiltrated into every walk of life.
Tom, I'm a little bit confused. The consulate, is this like a police station, or is this like where he lives in his house?
It's kind of both. It's like the White House. It's got heavy security. A lot of government legislation and stuff is going on here. But it's also a residence. I think that it's a residence. I think that he lives here. So maybe he doesn't. Maybe he lives nearby.
He lives in the consulate.
Is he? So he's the Governor General.
He is the Lord High Commissioner. Yeah.
The Lord High Commissioner. Okay.
So the boy went missing from the building that we're in right now?
Yes, from the garden.
The garden.
Right outside. And there's a wall around the garden, so.
Was he being supervised? Did he have like a nanny?
He had the maids and the servants that were around at the time. He wasn't necessarily being supervised. He's 9. He's not a baby.
I mean, could he have just wandered off out of the?
No.
You're saying it was walled. Is it like gated?
It's got a wall around it. Yeah. He would have had to have been grabbed and either taken over the wall or hustled out through the house hustled out through the consulate somehow. And with nobody looks at the servants, nobody pays that close attention to them because they're just in the background.
Mm-hmm.
We could have thought they were taking out a garbage bag and they'd had him tied up in it. And he becomes very upset. Like he just can't imagine how this happened, but I'm not overacting it. But he's all of that proper stiff upper lip Britishness has disappeared, and he's like desperate. It's my son.
Yes, of course.
I will pay you. I will, of course, he'll take care of any expenses you might incur. He has clout. He has universal clout throughout this country. So anything that you need, any help or assistance, he can provide it to you. He actually represents, at least on the surface, he represents a pretty strong ally in this area.
We might possibly benefit, if I might be bold enough to suggest it, from a letter of authorization, if you'd be inclined to provide us with one.
Absolutely, for anything that you
stating
need.
that we are operating under your auspices.
Yes, absolutely.
It might ease the way for us. Obviously, we're civilians, and dealing with law enforcement and official bodies might be otherwise very difficult.
There's a knock at the door, and Bailey sticks his head in and he says, "Sir, the staff are gathered." And he says, "Right, shall we?"
Indeed, yes.
So you walk out. It's a long, very wide hallway. So, and the staff is lined up on either side, facing the middle, so that you can walk along and look at them. There's about 30 of them, men and women.
Now, which of these people were present with the boy on the day?
Well, he walks you over to a few over here, and he doesn't really know their names, but she's supposed to watch over him, or at least make sure that if he needs something. And this is one of the consulate guards. He should have been at least keeping an eye out and all that. And he walks you down the various people. Let's see, Dr. Elizabeth, why don't you do a spot hidden?
No.
Okay. Frank, you do a spot. She'll all do spot hidden. So see who gets the best roll.
Nope.
You don't have to roll. I got an O2.
Oh, excellent. All right. Frank, I want you now to roll. Let's see. Call it a Constitution roll.
53 out of 70.
Okay. What the Constitution roll means is that you will be able to keep your composure. Okay. But as you're walking along the staff, there's a man there dressed, in their uniforms, whatever they are, their fancy uniforms. But when you look at him, and he's Turkish, there are definite scars around his eyes and around his ears. And when you look at him, the only way to describe it would be is that he has dead eyes. Like they're not his originals. Okay. So it's your choice whether you just grab him or whether you just ignore him and keep going. And So what do you do?
I'm going to look closely at his eyes and see if I recognize Rupert's eye.
Okay. Well, so you're like going to stop and lean in and look at his eyes really quickly? All right. I want you to do a dodge roll.
Oh boy. No, fail. 76.
All right. When you lean in, he suddenly and rather violently reaches up with his hands and shoves you back very hard. You can do a dex roll to see if you actually fall down. But when he does this, his immediate next move is to run for the door. Okay.
27 is my pass dex.
Okay, so you stagger back as he bolts for the door, and you hear Rutherford yell out, "Grab that man!" like this. And almost immediately he's surrounded and grabbed by some of the guards and dragged back. He starts yelling. He says, "The brothers have the boy and all the children. You are doomed. The skin beast will come soon, and you will sleep and you will sleep in the arms of the skinless one." And as he's yelling this at you,
I'll crack him upside the head with my cane.
well, before that happens, you notice that because now his shirt's been torn back and everything, that he has a large tattoo on him. And the tattoo looks like it's a snake. And as you're watching, and you're going to do a little sanity roll for this, the snake tattoo climbs up and wraps itself around the guy's neck and starts strangling him. So he falls to the ground, choking because he can't breathe. And within a couple of seconds, he's dead. And Rutherford is horrified and frightened. You can all do sanity rolls. And it's a 1d4.
Ooh, I've passed.
I did not.
Not by much.
I passed.
1 for a pass.
All right, so
Only got
1d4.
Yeah, I only got one. Okay.
Okay. Now, what you've recognized, obviously, is some sort of a spell meant to keep him from talking.
He already did.
My goodness.
Rutherford's like, what? What on earth is this all about? Who are the brothers of the skin? Are they who we're looking for?
I think they're that very same bunch of nefarious seditionists of whom you mentioned.
He says to Bailey something like, "Get this piece of trash out of here." You know. No, don't take him to the hospital. Throw him on the dirt on the shit heap outside.
Wait, before you do that, let us we should check his pockets. He may have something that might point to the matter in hand.
Okay.
Dr. Keith, I've already been warned. Don't take money from a dead man.
The only thing that he has looks like a timetable. And it's kind of a timetable of the staff, where the staff are at what time of the day, and things like that. But other than that, he doesn't seem to have anything.
Mm-hmm.
And now, of course, Rutherford's even more upset. My God, they have my son. Who are these people?
Well, I think we've just found your inside man, as the paperbacks would have it.
Well, let's look over the rest of the people and make sure.
You know,
yes, the woman who was supposed to be looking over the child.
Can we request that everybody roll up their sleeves?
Wow.
Well, you look over the rest of the staff and you don't see anything. But Rutherford at this point is pretty much prepared to dismiss them all. And I mean, get out. You're fired. Get the hell out of our place.
Before we do that, let's investigate. Let's look them over.
All right.
Yes.
Well, after 20 minutes, you don't see anybody else with scars or anything like that, or tattoos. A couple of wrinkly old ones, but nothing looks out of the ordinary. So most of them are rather horrified too.
Right.
You know.
Some of them could be putting on an act. But all right.
All
right.
Rutherford says to you, he says,
let's still question the woman and question these other people too.
Okay.
Find out exactly when this man became employed by the police here.
None of them are really quite sure, except that very likely he's been here for about 2 weeks.
And when was the first disappearance of the children reported?
About 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And Rutherford suddenly thinks to himself, he says, I thought for a while that they were only stealing Turkish children, because from what we had learned, that's all we knew, that there were no British children that were taken. And so I thought that maybe they had grabbed my son by mistake. However, this man would seem to indicate that we have spies right here in the consulate. And so I don't think that any place is really safe.
Well, given how recently he came into your employ, it would suggest
Right.
that he was embedded here specifically for this task. Or at the very least to keep an eye on proceedings in the consulate.
They must be spying on us all the time as just a matter of routine.
They're everywhere.
It would seem so.
Did we get a time of the kidnapping of his son? Was it recent, or was it like 2 weeks ago?
I'm sorry, say that again?
When was his son missing? Like
yesterday.
Yesterday? Okay. All right. So there's still a chance that he might be alive. I don't know about the other children, though. He says something about this skin monster creature, skin lord, or whatever, will rise.
Yeah, I didn't understand any of that. Who are these brothers?
Well,
do we want
I'll be cautious to say this in such a way that that only he can hear it. We think they might be some sort of cult.
And he looks concerned, and he takes you back into his office privately so that nobody else is there. And he says, some sort of a cult.
Well, yes, some sort of, you know what these things are like, some sort of cult come quasi-nationalist group, much like the Thuggies, and you remember the trouble.
Yes, some sort of bloodthirsty cult, a group of murderers and assassins.
Yes. Well, I think this is very much a Middle Eastern version of the same sort of thing. Not the same cult, you understand.
My God, why did I ever come to this godforsaken place? He says, please get my son back. If you can get my son back, I'll give you anything that you want.
I can assure you, we'll do everything in our power.
Is there anything, you said you wanted a letter.
Yes, if you would be able to provide us with a letter of authority.
Yes.
Just stating that we're operating under your orders.
Absolutely.
That would be extremely useful to us, I think, in this matter. And I was wondering, I mean, are there any men in your employ that you feel you can trust?
Just Bailey.
Just Bailey.
I mean, I'm sure there are others I can trust. I just don't know if I can trust them.
Yes, of course.
He calls Bailey in. He says, Bailey, we're going to trust these people. And Bailey's like, he says, well, I'm at your service if you need me. However, my job is really to watch over and protect the High Commissioner.
Yes, yes, of course. And if he were to come with us, then that would leave the High Commissioner unprotected, wouldn't it?
Is Bailey an actual like police officer, or is he more like a servant, bodyguard?
He's more of a, yeah, almost like a bodyguard assistant, lieutenant. He's a lieutenant.
Would he have the authority to arrest people?
Oh yeah, I mean, and he'd have authority to tell the police what to do.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course the commissioner, if you need something, and he says, send 6 men over into that area and stop that commotion. That's what his job is, partly.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you want to proceed?
Well,
Do you have any names? Any suspects as to who might be in this cult?
No.
Because so far the only lead we have is the Shand Mosque, the Red Mosque,
I'm that dead guy.
which is now dead. He's not much help to us.
He asks you, he says, all of this commotion, forgive my asking, but why are you here? Perhaps there's something I can do to help.
Dr. Keith, you want to tell him about the book?
Well, I'm not sure what we should tell him. Well, we came across a couple of rather unusual books on our travels that mentioned what they called the Bloody Tower, which was allegedly a what you call it, a cult center, and purely out of an academic interest, we elected to find this place. We think it may be the same place as your Red Mosque.
Well, the Red Mosque, I believe, is composed out of brick, and that's why it's red.
Uh-huh. Yes, we think it might be the site of a much older building.
Well, almost everything here is on the side of much older buildings.
Yes. Dating back to the Crusade.
The Fourth Crusade?
The Fourth Crusade. Dating back to the Fourth Crusade.
The sack of Constantinople.
Yes, indeed, that one. Yes, I was just about to say that. So we'd be very interested to locate it from that point of view. But we have on our journey had occasion to encounter people we believe may have been connected to this cult, and they were rather disreputable and less than friendly, it must be said.
So you've encountered these people before?
We believe so, yes.
Outside of Constantinople?
Yes.
So they're more far-reaching than just here.
Oh yes, we think it's quite a.
That's terrifying. With all of the relations, all of the difficulties we're having, relations with the Greeks right now. I mean, things are they're sizzling along the border. It's just, why am I living in this hellhole?
Well, I mean,
and you look around, and the palace is splendid. I mean, the commissioner's place is splendid by any means. But it's a hellhole.
It does seem that wherever we've encountered these people, there does seem to be discord and political unrest. So I wonder whether they might be anarchists or Bolsheviks of some sort.
Possibly.
Certainly, our train was delayed by an anarchist bombing as we were passing through the Balkans.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yes.
Well, if you need anything, if you need access to anything, Permission to go places that you shouldn't normally be able to go. You've got it.
We will do our utmost. I promise you that.
Excellent. And so you're here looking for just this cult? Or...
Well, to be honest, I had been on holiday.
So this was just sort of a holiday thing.
A busman's holiday, you might say. I mean,
I
well,
see.
when one is an academic, it's very difficult to turn it off.
Well, I'm very sorry that I'm taking you off your holiday.
No.
Please.
We are only too glad to help. Who wouldn't? With a missing child, goodness, we must help you.
All right. So what would you guys like to do?
That's
Any
a
more
very good
questions? Or...
suggestion.
I imagine that you're not telling him certain things.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. Well, do an idea roll.
Yes, just
Okay.
61 out of 80.
You still have some other unfinished business in town, obviously, finding the scrolls. I mean, I'm not ranking their importance. I'm just saying.
See, I'm thinking that as far as things like the scrolls go, we can combine all these things. Once now we've got this letter of authority,
Mm-hmm.
then that's going to give us a bit more weight if we go to the museum or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It might get us in to see some relevant people.
All right.
Should we ask the commissioner?
What would you like to ask the commissioner?
I'm kind of like pulling everybody aside. I'm asking, should we ask him?
Well, he might know who the best person to see about. Where the repositories of ancient scrolls are, there must be some sort of
And somebody who wouldn't be offended by our line of questioning either.
yes. Maybe a name might come to mind. An occult expert, perhaps. Should we use the word occult? We've mentioned that it's a
Well, we mentioned it before and somebody got offended, so.
yes. They do seem to be rather sensitive about the matter.
You're not saying this like right in front of me. You're talking this.
Oh no, we're mumbling between ourselves.
Which doesn't seem really suspicious to somebody that's already suspecting.
Well, no, he figures you need to confer with your people.
I mean, because again, we have 0 leads in relation to these scrolls.
Right.
I mean, we're sort of operating under the assumption that once we find the mosque, we might find a clue there, but that's just an assumption.
Well, let me suggest that you have said to him that you were researching this cult.
Yeah.
The more that you know about the cult, the more effective you can be.
Well, now that we have some sort of authority, I know it's really into investigating the disappearance of his son, but perhaps with this authority, we can get better access to that museum and find some of the more hidden articles or artifacts that they have, where we might come across the scrolls.
That's true. You know what? I'm going to break. I'm going to go ask the commissioner.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you, this is a strange question, but since we're researching this cult and the cult-like activity, do you have any leads or names or places you can suggest that would lead to some sort of information regarding the occult, or even if it's just from a historical point of view. We tried asking around at the museum, and people seem to take offense at our questioning.
Oh well, the Turks are very proud people.
Yeah, so like maybe if there's another,
you can't go
from Britain,
or go saying things that offend them, and they seem to be offended at everything.
Yeah.
If you approach your questions more from an academic point of view, and you prove you're academic, you can talk to some of the people in charge over there.
Okay.
Talk to the chief curator or something. I believe his name is Azop, Professor something Azop, Gavin or Camel or Garo or something like that. Professor Azop will be the one that you'd want to talk to.
Okay, thank you.
I think I met him at a function once.
Sure, I would imagine you attend all the fundraising city type galas.
Yeah, I believe he's the director at the Topkapi Museum. He will be suspicious of you because you are British or American. But just explain that the commissioner has given his permission, and that you mean no offense by any line of questionings you might give him, and explain who you are, that you're investigators, and don't say anything that would offend the Muslims or the Muslim people of the Muslim religion. Don't accuse them of being infidels. That's their word. That's what they call us. And he doesn't giggle. I'm sorry, I'm a giggler, but he's very upset.
Yeah. And I'm sort of playing along with his beliefs. Like, agreeing with him, like, oh yeah, you can't trust these guys. And
yeah, he's very xenophobic.
Anyone else have any ideas, or have we gathered all of our? Should we go look at the garden area just in case?
Yeah.
Do
we still want to question some of the workers here? That might also give us clues of what happened, or a place where we might want to look.
Let's just skip that. You guys question who you want to, and you check out the garden, but there's no clues of any kind.
Okay.
There's nothing, no more information.
While we're here, can we request? I assume there's a phone here, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could we sort of pre-request or ask if it would be okay that should we decide later on to venture into this part of town where the mosque is, if we could get a bodyguard or a police escort of some sort?
Sure. Now, he says they won't do it at night. It's far too dangerous at night.
Okay.
Walking into a criminal-infested area at night, no. That's just stupid. Daytime? Okay, yeah.
I don't think it's stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. You'll get killed or murdered, or they'll murder you for the $3 in your pocket.
It's $50 thanks to Frank.
Oh, you gave him the $50.
Yeah, he gave it back to me.
So it's not only money you stole from a dead guy, it's then that you gave it to somebody else.
He gave it back to me.
You take the guilt.
But it's why I was like, you don't take this. He's like, I'm giving you your money back.
It's like Judas gets his 30 pieces of silver, and then he just turns to the guy next to him and says, "Here, you take these."
Yeah. You need it more than I do.
Yeah, the dead guy didn't need him. It was besides his pockets all dissolved and shit. All right.
Well, end it off like that. Before we leave, I asked the commissioner if he's familiar with a man named Freyer. Or Bayer.
No, it's a fairly common name.
Okay.
What? Who is he?
He was a man. I'll explain how we met this man in the marketplace.
So he's a scribe?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably
Right.
1,000 scribes in town.
I was seeing if you might have been familiar with him, or if he's run into any sort of trouble with anybody.
Is he a Turk?
Is he a Turk?
He's a Turk. Figure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't trust him.
I kind of pull Dr. Dawkins aside, and I let him know that, well, while you were taking a nap sleeping, we kind of, at least with me, I'm 100% certain that he's not part of the cult. He was very confused, and he was very scared of the whole situation that happened at the bathhouse.
Really?
Yes, he was with Dr. Dawkins, or not Dr. Dawkins, Dr. Elizabeth. She can kind of...
I look to Frank and Elizabeth, and I look back at Eldridge, and I say, "What is the password?"
It's meatball subs. Friendship!
Oh.
It's friendship. We changed it to friendship.
Wrong, sir, wrong. This man is a fraud.
What?
Tell me it's not Maestro's. It's not Maestro's meatball subs. I think you're the imposter.
No, that's not the password, Mr. Eldritch, or whoever you may be.
That was always the password. Meatball subs, specifically Maestro's, the best on the East Coast.
But I do look to Elizabeth and to Frank, and just to confirm whether or not Eldridge is on the level.
He's been telling everybody we meet practically.
I'm sick and tired of this bullshit.
Well, I must confess to being more than a little dismayed by the fact that Mr. Volkov has been displaying a rather worrying attribute for a gentleman of Russian extraction, in that he does seem pathologically unable to see bears.
Oh yes.
They are rather large things. I mean, he didn't see that. I saw a bear twice. I've seen a bear now, and on neither occasion has he seen hide nor indeed hair of said sign.
I sort of look at you two, and I give a slight wink, and I say, "Eldridge, you didn't see the bear?"
No, I may have taken up the drink recently. But...
Why are you all here talking about a bear? Go find my son.
Excuse me. We have to examine every avenue. We have to examine every avenue for clues. Bears could be a clue.
Well, isn't there something in Russian folklore about bears?
Lots of stuff in Russian folklore about bears.
There's a lot of stuff about bears.
Yeah, I mean, but isn't there like a sort of maybe a harbinger of ill luck or something like that?
Sure, it's a harbinger of death.
Is it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's stories of heroes who had their heads turned into bear heads until they learned their lesson, and then they were turned back into human. By Baba Yaga, I think.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Baba Yaga, a lot of Baba Yaga, a lot of bears, a lot of tree people too, a lot of elves too, like dwarf people.
Isn't that creature we met out in the woods?
Yes, so Baba Yaga is That's why as soon as the house started coming up, I knew what to do. Get the hell out and kill it.
All right,
Pukas.
I look to the rest of you guys. I say, let's get on our way and start this investigation. But I look to Elizabeth, and I'll say, if you see that bear again, let us know. I really don't like the correlation of Baba Yaga and bears, since we already escaped Baba Yaga before. We don't want to have to run into that thing again.
All right.
And,
Onward.
Onward. So
now it's
we?
evening. Probably
Wow.
about 8 o'clock by now. So.
Well, seemingly too late to venture into the rookeries.
However, with your authority, you might be able to still get into the Topkapi Museum.
Okay, let's go for that.
There might be researchers still working there.
Okay. And as we're walking, I'll say to Eldridge, if you still want to go to the Red Mosque. Oh, sorry.
Papa's found me.
It sounds very much like another child might have been taken.
Yeah.
But
Or a banshee.
If you want to go into the area of the Red Mosque, perhaps we can, but we should definitely go fully armed.
Well, we also discussed disguises.
Yeah.
It's not hard to really buy robes here and just cover ourselves and cover our faces, and garment. I'm hoping that if we can. But see, that's the problem. That's why I want it fair, because my idea is that if we find ourselves in a seedy underbelly, much like a bar or a pub, we could ask around. It's better to get down on their level and see what the talk of the street is, rather than some authority figure. An authority figure may not know what the Red Mosque even is, but someone who's heard legend of don't go into that place, bad things happen there, that may be the Red Mosque, that may be the Red Tower. But we don't know Turkish. That's the problem. We know English. I know Russian, but they don't speak Russian. They hate Russians. Turks hate Russians.
Hey, Tom, can I ask you a question? But you don't have to answer it, obviously. But I'm wondering if we're using a lot of terms interchangeably, and I'm wondering if you can either clear it up for us or just let us continue the way we're going.
All right.
We've been using the words of Shanda Mosque, Red Mosque, Red Tower, Bloody Tower. Are all of these just different terms for the same place, or do we not know that?
You don't really know that.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to.
I don't know exactly what. That's not really a clue, because I don't know what you're assuming, but I have to let you guys assume what you want to assume.
Okay.
I assume the Red Tower is a literal tower that is a part of the mosque.
Well, that's what I know.
It would have been. I think it would have been torn down long ago.
Yes, I would agree with that. I was assuming that the mosque is on the site that the tower was on. From the previous book.
I think I wanted to clarify that amongst ourselves then, because I'm under the impression now that I don't think they're related at all.
Well, do an idea roll for me, and I'll tell you something. I'll lay something out for you.
It's highly likely that they aren't. I mean, the whole thing could be a red herring.
16.
No.
Red herring.
A red herring.
Or brown bear.
I saw the bear.
The story, the stories that you've read, 1204, the city of Constantinople was 99% Christian, and they probably wouldn't have had a mosque in the city in 1204 because it was still Christian. It wasn't taken over by the Turks until the late 1400s. And then you'd start to find mosques. So the Red Mosque couldn't be it couldn't be as old as 1204. Okay. The tower, which would have been, which is also described, would have probably been torn down. It was back then, it was in a bad part of town even then. And once Baldwin had taken over the city, and that was the center of that evil cult then, he would have had that whole thing torn down, destroy it all.
And I would imagine that once the Turks started conquering certain areas, the Christians would probably allow them to say, all right, you guys can have that.
Well, in 1492 or 1454, something like that, is when the city of Rome, the city of Constantinople fell to the Turks. So at that point, mosques, a lot of the churches were converted into mosques, and new mosques were built. So the mosque would have had to have been built then, but there was probably at least 200 years in between before the mosque was built and the Red Tower was destroyed. So are they in the same place?
Well, I know from reading in the book from before, was it the Imagino Diablo?
Mm-hmm.
They gave us the location of it was in the northeast section of the town.
Right.
Of the city.
And that's right where this guy is pointing to, this red mosque.
Oh, because I thought we went to the bathhouse. I thought that was in the bazaar.
No, that was just across the bridge on the northeast side of town.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to point out too is that so when you were just telling us the information from the commissioner's point of view, you were using the term red mosque.
Yes, that's what they call it. That's what he calls it, the red mosque.
Okay.
You said the shunned mosque as a dangerous area and an abandoned mosque, and he said, well, we suspect this place called the Red Mosque, which is an abandoned mosque, that is a very bad part of town.
So it's very, your theory may be correct then, Dr. Keith. All these similar names might be describing the same place then. Okay. All right. I wanted to try and clear that up.
In different times, in different time periods.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can I go back to just, I think we all know it, but I just wanted to point it out that yet again, we had this, what we assumed was a secret meeting with this Bayab fellow. I mean, we basically only told the child urchin to transfer a message to him. But I assumed this child wouldn't go spreading around this sort of message to anybody. But yet again, we were ambushed from people who seemed to already know our plans and got there ahead of us.
You think that it's possible that the street urchin told the cult, whether he was part of the cult?
That's what I mean. I mean, it's the only thing I can think, but it doesn't make sense logically. We basically just picked a random kid out of the crowd.
There's another, do an idea roll.
Unless they're hiring the kids to watch us. 49 would be a pass.
If Baylab is a source of information, there'd be no reason why the cult wouldn't be watching him all the time. Just in case he says something that they didn't want him to say.
I can't help but wonder what you just said then about them paying kids to watch us. What if they're paying a man with a dancing bear to watch us? Well, that's not very subtle, is it?
No,
And
it's not very subtle at all.
He's never really been that close to you either.
No, no. Yeah.
And you're
No,
still not
that's not
100% sure that was a bear. It was the
I
shape of a bear.
Saw a bear. I definitely
dark.
saw a bear.
All right,
It
so you
may
guys
have
are
been
still.
a very big dog.
We're all still standing in limbo, halfway out the door of the.
Oh, we were. I thought we were walking. We were heading towards the museum.
Oh, okay, that's right. You guys were heading towards the museum.
Yes, I'm definitely walking and talking. I'm a multitasker.
All right. So you arrive at the museum. It is dark, but there are lights on inside, and there's a couple of guards. Sorry, we're closed.
Show them the paper.
I shall proffer the. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, it's still saying muted on my end. I shall proffer the letter and say we're here on official business.
Who do you need to see?
Who do we need to see? Now,
Professor Azap.
There you go. He says, well, the director is still here. Please, come inside. And he basically has one of the other guards watch the door, and he walks you to a back office in the museum, and he knocks. Professor, there are some people here from the commissioner. The hell's the name of the place? The consulate. The consulate.
Can I just make sure that I've definitely got the letter back?
Yes, of course you did. And he like stands up, and he's like, yes, may I help you? I am Professor Garo Azap.
Professor Azap, I shall shake his hand and allow the others to do the same.
It is rather late. I was just getting ready to leave.
We're terribly sorry to bother you at this late hour. But we wondered if you might possibly be able to help us.
What can I do for you?
Does anyone else want to do this? Because I've been sort of dominating things a bit.
I'll walk up. The talker. I'm very good with people.
You've gotten better.
Well, it's the drinking. I sit down and I say, Dr. Azap, we're here because we're looking. We're working as academics. Dr. Elizabeth and Dr. Dawkins here. They're part of a team with Miskatonic University.
In the United States.
In the United States, yes.
Yes.
We, while traveling through France, we came upon books that talked about a location here in Constantinople that piqued their interest. I am Eldridge Volkov. I am their writer. I'm transcribing pretty much everything that they're doing. And then Mr. Frank over here, he is a photographer. He's kind of taking photographic evidence of everything that we find.
I see.
We're looking for a location that has, we believe, significant importance to Turkey, Turkey. Turkey and the Ottoman Empire's history. It's a location that should be here in Constantinople. It's called the Red Mosque. It's also gone under other names as the Shunned Mosque, the Red Tower, the Blood Red Tower, the Blood Tower.
There are over 400 mosques in town.
This mosque, though, it's significant. It's very different from all the other mosques. What it is it's pardon my parlance, but it's a hub of it's it's unholy ground, so to speak. It's dabbling within the occult.
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
Yeah. GM puts his hat on. I think Eldritch has forgotten what that they came to the museum for. Yeah, and he puts his hat back on.
Oh yeah, I have. Point me in the direction of what we. I'm just going through my script. Here.
I think now we should actually make sure that it is Eldritch and not.
I'm going over my script here, which is the story I've been telling everybody to make sure that we're on the level with everybody, so that way we don't mix up who we're lying to. This mosque, it has certain things attributed to it. It has a statue that's been attributed to it, a statue of some sort of odd material.
Okay, hold on just a second. I'll just stop you there. You already know where the Red Mosque is. You got that information from
I know. Let me go. Let me talk.
All right.
It also has scrolls that should be associated with it.
Okay.
Now, there should be, 7 scrolls, Dr. Elizabeth?
Pretty sure it's more than that, but I will check real quick.
Yeah, check for me.
I think that it's 5.
It's 5?
Yes, I think you're right. It's 5. I don't think there's one for the torso.
There's not one for the torso. We have the head one.
So there are 4.
4.
So you're looking for 5 scrolls, or you're looking?
Oh
for
no,
4 scrolls?
no! We are looking. No, we have the scroll of the head.
Yeah, we have the scroll of the head.
There are the scroll of the legs.
2.
The scroll of the right hand, the scroll of the left hand, and the scroll of the belly. So the 2 legs, that's just 1 scroll.
Okay, so we're looking. So there's 6 scrolls. We're looking for 5.
Looking for
No,
4.
there are 5 scrolls, and we're looking for 4.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Oh, the legs are not. The legs are 1. They're not separate.
Yes, that's
Well,
just
we
one
have-
scroll. The scroll of the legs, the scroll of the right hand, the scroll of the left hand, and the scroll of the belly.
We have a very large collection of old historical scrolls. Do you know what they're called?
Yes, Dr. Elizabeth. You've just listed them off.
Well, he weren't.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. I'm saying he just.
They're
listed
referred
them
to
off,
as a group. They're referred to as the Sedevkar scrolls. But they are the scroll of the legs, the scroll of the right hand, the scroll of the left hand, and the scroll of the belly.
The belly. He says, yes. Why do you want to look at those things?
They're referenced in a number of works that we've found.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Volkov, do continue.
Well, they're associated with a statue.
Well,
the Sedevkar simulacrum.
there's a name I haven't heard in a long time, Sedevkar. Sedevkar was a crazy scholar, not Turkish, some sort of bizarre cult. Yes, we do have those scrolls. We keep them locked up. They're not usually. I don't believe anybody's even asked about them, reviewed them for decades. But they're kind of an embarrassment. They're gruesome. They're extremely gruesome. You understand this? Yes, we do. We know what they're associated with. They're associated with a ritual. Can we backpedal for a moment? You know the name Sedevkar, yes? Yes, he is. I believe he was a bizarre sort of occult religious leader in the 1200s, the early 1200s. I know that he disappeared. Nobody knew exactly what happened, although he was probably killed in the sack of Constantinople. The scrolls have been in our possession for a long time. And that's the only reason I know a great deal of things. I've been the director here for the last 40 years.
I'm curious. We haven't heard really anything about Sedefkar.
Well, it's not something that we talk about because it's disgusting.
So he was a Turkish man who brought down a cult.
Well, I don't know about Turkish. He was not. This was not Turkey then.
Well, no. But he wasn't a Turk. I would have assumed with the name he would have been, from the region.
Well, Sedefkar, it may be a name, but it's not. It's also kind of an occupation, a person who manufactures things out of porcelain or shell, like mother of pearl.
Really?
So whether his name was actually that, you see, one thing about Muslims is all of us have Muhammad someplace in our name, and there's no indication that Sedefkar was in any way a religious man or an honest Turk. He was something else. A wizard, a sorcerer, perhaps. Or at least what people back then called a sorcerer.
What can you tell us about the scrolls? Before we'd like to. Once again, we're not really on an expedition, but we are in association with the Miskatonic University, looking at these scrolls. We're wondering if we could possibly take them.
They are. Well, I don't think that you could take them. No, you can't take them. But I'll let you look at them.
There's absolutely no way for you to allow us to possibly take these. We are on. We do have the authority of the consulate. We're promising their return. We just would like them for examination.
My position is one of protectorate.
We are respectable academics, Professor.
I believe you. I believe I've actually read one of your books, Dr. Elizabeth.
Okay.
Well, let me look at them. I do consider them an embarrassment. They're not something we would ever put on public display. They're not part of any collection. I'll show them to you, and I'll think about it. I'll think about if you really have a legitimate reason.
That's all we ask, is that you at least consider it. Looking at them, we may glean what we need to know from them just by seeing them here. But I'm sure that
well, they're very delicate. And he looks just completely disgusted for a moment. He says, "I believe that they are actually on human skin."
And I'm not really affected by this. I nod. I'll say, well, yes, we've actually come across one of these scrolls. You see, you do not have you have an incomplete set.
I am not aware of there being more than 4.
Well, there is a 5th. We don't have it, but we have seen it.
Well, let me show them to you.
Yes, please.
This is not exactly what I wanted to go home to dinner on, but perhaps Professor Elizabeth would like to hang back. As I say, they're very gruesome.
I'm made of sterner stuff than you might imagine, Professor.
All right. Yes, you English women have always proven to be much more difficult than.
I'll hang back. Women. Unless you guys need me to.
Well, he's just saying because she's a woman.
Yeah, I know, and I'm saying I would like to hang back.
All right.
You want to hang back, Frank?
Yes.
You're going to stay in the office?
I'll go follow them to wherever
You're just going to stay behind. Okay.
Like,
All right. So he takes you down a long hallway, up some stairs, down another hallway, into another part of the Topkapi Museum, where you can see that they've got drawers from almost from ceiling to floor, down hallways, lots of them. And he checks sort of a catalog so that he knows where they are, and he gets the catalog number, and he goes to the drawer, and it's right about at chest height, and he unseals it and he pulls it open, and inside are 4 bone cases that you would put a scroll into, and they're actually surprisingly plain. He also records all of your names that you guys are, everything has to be documented. They don't just, toss things out at you. So everything is documented, that he's, that they're going to open the scrolls, that they're going to look at them, that he's going to allow you to do this. That's all that paperwork has to be filled out first. And then he collects the 4 scroll cases, and he takes you to a little side room and gives you all gloves, and says, please, help yourself. No eating or drinking.
Dr. Keith.
It goes without saying.
It's written in what language, Tom?
The original, the one that you've got already, is written in a mixture of Arabic and Turkish and some other ancient language. You'd probably need to get it translated by somebody.
Who here can speak any of those languages?
Wasn't it,
Probably the
Arabic.
professor.
Wasn't it Arabic, Turkish, and Latin?
No, I don't think there was Latin, but there might have been Aklo.
Okay.
As part of
Well,
it.
is it possible for us to copy?
Yeah, you could try, but none of you write Arabic, so.
I turn to the doctor and I say, is there a possible transcript of this? I know that some museums keep transcripts of their scrolls in case they're damaged or lost, and you want to retain the actual content.
He's like, no, I'm afraid not. It'd be very difficult to get somebody to even want to look at these things. Certainly not a modern Arabic or Turkish translator would like to look at these things. They're gross.
Would you be able to give us a rough appraisal, Professor?
I could try. I think that I've looked at them. I have looked at them before, and it's not just that they're. He said they're written in an archaic form of Turkish, but they're using Arabic letters. So I'm not very good. It would take a while to decipher.
Is it possible for us? I mean, since we're not allowed to take these out of here. Maybe come back tomorrow morning.
Of course.
Okay.
And we'll be bringing a scribe along with us, and hopefully he has something. I would recommend Frank bring his camera, but the flash may damage the.
No, that's an old wives' tale, I think, isn't it?
I'm not sure that they knew about that yet. That exposed her to.
Oh, that the magnesium flash wouldn't damage things. All right, well, let's bring Frank's camera in here. Let's do it.
All right. So, while you're standing here with them now, what are you going to do?
If he could give us well, I don't know. Do we want him to give us a vague précis of the contents, or should we wait until tomorrow when we've got a translator and perhaps let him get home to his dinner in order to preserve his goodwill?
Yeah, let's not upset him.
Yeah.
Let's have him go. So
Can I have a quick sidebar with everybody?
Sure.
Based on what we've been through, he might not be alive tomorrow morning.
True.
Yes, this is. I don't see what else we could. Well, we could get them to give us a précis of their contents.
I reach into my coat pocket. I take a nice little swig from Rupert's flask, and I put it back. And I whisper, Frank's right. We may not get a second chance at looking at these.
Are you thinking about what I'm thinking?
I can't.
Like the Italian job?
I can't believe I'm going to even suggest it after what you all did. And all those other places where you stole things and broke into places.
Yeah, the Italian job.
But I think it's our only option. We need those scrolls, and we need what's inside of them.
And now we know where they're stored, and now we know how to get here. So, sure. But perhaps we should leave, and we should hang outside and wait for him to leave and tail him basically to his house and make sure he gets home safely. What happens after that is beyond our control, but I don't want this man to die, based off of something that we've been looking at.
I agree. Maybe two of us go and tail him, and the two of us stay here and get the scrolls, and we all meet back up. 2 people getting the scrolls will be easier than 4 people. There's less people.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you suggesting trying to break back into this place?
I'm saying we steal them.
Oh, well, this place is a fortress. I mean, he had to unlock like 5 doors just to get to this part. This was a palace at one time, so it's highly secure.
Well, then we're going to need one hell of a plan.
Well, he's on the verge of letting you take them if you have a good reason.
Dr. Elizabeth, can you come up with a good reason as to why we can take these scrolls?
It might help us.
Well, we're rather concerned that if we were to bring a translator into the museum in order to translate these scrolls for us, while that would be very useful for us, it could be potentially embarrassing for the museum were someone to ask you what that translator, what that scribe was doing here and what he was working on.
It's true. And our scribe is a very young man who probably has a very large mouth.
Yes, and likely, you see, because he's a younger man, he's less likely to have any fixed attitude towards documents of this kind.
I haven't exactly decided yet whether I should allow these to be taken. They are priceless, irreplaceable. But my guess is that you wouldn't just hire somebody off the street.
Oh, no.
You would take these wherever you need to take them, perhaps back to the Miskatonic or the British Museum, and have professionals.
Oh yes, undoubtedly we'd take them to London. I mean, or possibly Berlin. I know that some of the foremost linguists and Orientalists are still stationed in Berlin, of course. The Germans always having been quite
yes. There's a very good Professor Heimenheifer in Berlin, who is a very good scholar in this field.
And of course, we'll start by taking these directly from here at the museum to the British consulate, where they are secured.
Wouldn't you like to see them? I mean, we've gone to all this trouble.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
If you're going to allow us to take them, I don't see why we can't just look at them now and just make sure they're all there.
Okay. Well, You've all got gloves on, the white cloth gloves, and he very carefully opens up one of the tubes, and reaches his fingers inside to remove the document, and there's nothing there.
So
He's like, what? And he opens up the next one, and there's nothing there. And he opens up the third one, and there's nothing there. And he opens up the fourth one, and there's something there. And he pulls it out, and it is a piece of parchment. You recognize almost immediately that it's on old human skin, and it's written in, well, go ahead, read it. It's in Turkish.
Yeah. How about you read it?
He looks absolutely horrified, and he's like, what is this? Somebody has stolen them.
But what does it say, Professor? What does it say?
It well, let me translate it for you.
Please do.
That's what it says.
All right. You want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
The skinless one reclaims what is his. Cursed be Garazut, the thief.
Garaznet, the thief.
Garaznet, the thief for his treachery.
So what is this? Who is this skinless one? And
who's this thief?
Who could have stolen? And he says Garaznet. Garaznet was a scholar about 400 years ago, not of any great note.
Really, he was of something. He's a thief.
Well, he was a Kurdish scholar. He's buried in Uskadar Cemetery. There's a big cenotaph. Is it cenotaph? Epitaph? But he's a minor scholar. I don't know what this means.
Is he somehow connected to the scrolls? Did he translate them, or?
I have no idea how he could possibly be even remotely. If it's suggesting that he took the scrolls, he died 400 years ago. I saw the scrolls, perhaps 25 years ago.
Well, okay. Who would know more about this scholar?
You might find stuff in the library, but there's not going to be much. She says, but we can find out who last examined the scrolls. Let's
take a look at that.
So he seems extremely upset, and he goes back and he grabs the log books that's here, and he flips through, and he says, the last time they were examined was about 14 years ago, and the person who examined them was named Selim Makriat.
Oh my God. We've heard that name before. Where do we go from here?
Remind me, Mr. Volkov, where have we heard that name before?
We have heard that name before in the 1890s book, The Journal of Professor Smythe. He was but a young boy at one of the cults. If you remember, it was written that he was a young boy with dead eyes.
Right. I knew that name sounded familiar. Huh.
Which means that he'd be what? He'd be in his 30s. Late 30s.
Perhaps.
I believe. But
we don't know what he would look like.
He was if I remember correctly, he was also the son of the cult leader.
Right.
Yes. Which means I have a nagging suspicion that he's the current cult leader today.
Frank, Jeff, do you want to check those facts?
I'm searching madly, and because I spell all these names phonetically, I'm having a hard time finding it, but I know I have it.
All right.
Oh, here it is. I think I might have found it. Salim Makriat, leader of the Brotherhood of the Skin and Smythe's enemy.
Yes.
1893 is when
in 1893.
Yeah.
Oh, so he was the leader who had a son with dead eyes.
Yeah.
Which means that he's now easily Smythe's age. Oh.
And there's another, and I think this might be who you were talking about. I think his son's name was Mehmet.
Mehmet was the son, yes.
3 men murdered in London with this name. The real Makriat is missing. That was back in London.
Ah.
All right. So what is this? What does it mean? What does all this mean? So the leader of this
we know
cult
that
here.
the last person who had access to them was a cult leader, so it would be reasonable to assume, wouldn't it, that he's the one who actually.
Oh, what?
And Brotherhood of the Skin jumped out of the corner and stabbed Dr. Elizabeth.
No.
All right. So
well, let's assume at the moment the professor is extremely upset and he needs you all to leave.
Sure. Yeah, I assume we're leaving.
All right. I'll say that to Mick. The professor is very upset and he needs you all to leave.
Yes, understandably.
Yeah, he needs to report this, and he's sorry. All right. So you guys have been hustled out.
Well,
Okay. So the Skinless Cult has the 4 other scrolls, and they've had them for 14 years.
Yes. More importantly, they've had them for 14 years, as you say. So they've had them all along.
Which means that we are the only ones stopping them from going forward with their plans of. I'm assuming bringing back this skinless one, because they say the skinless one. I'm imagining that it's either a person or a wizard or a deity or something like that.
Or a beast.
Or a beast, a monster, or the statue itself. But
well, we shouldn't let that date fool us that he's probably still the same man from, right? Because there's been an issue of they seem to have some sort of immortality.
Yeah.
So we can't. In other words, we can't necessarily assume it's the son. It very well could be the father.
Well, yeah. I'm assuming that the son was always, because he had dead eyes. If you remember in the book, he had dead eyes. I assumed that the son was a vessel. They transfer the consciousness from one vessel into the other, and he was just the next vessel to contain this consciousness. It's possible that the father has been here since the founding or the creation of the Sedav Carson Lacrum. That's a theory.
Yeah. One thing's kind of bothering me, though. If he were the one to actually steal the scrolls, it seems strange he would just sign his name on the logbook.
Well,
Maybe.
you know how careless these people are.
I don't think they're careless. I think they're confident.
Or confident.
I think that they don't. I don't think they don't care. To them, they're because look at it.
Isn't that the actual literal meaning of carelessness?
I mean,
They care less.
It's been 14 years since anyone showed even the slightest interest in these scrolls. They had nothing to fear.
The question is, why now?
exactly. That's what I asked last time. Is that all of a sudden they start? We talked to oh my god, Baylab, and Baylab said that in the last month they've been scrambling all over, and about a month ago is when this whole thing started.
Because they knew we were coming. They've known all along.
That's what I've been
Whether
saying.
it's been foretold or engineered, they've known all along. We've been
I think I may be both.
we've been led
Is there-
here. We've been
Is there something?
herded.
Wondering if there's some sort of connection with the time periods, the dates actually. Has it happened over? I mean, has this sort of thing happened over several decades? I mean, we only have what 3 things that we've read that involve this. I mean, we've read the book on the Romans. We've read the one on the Crusades. We've read Smythe's journal. I'm wondering if there's a correlation between the times, what years this particular thing happened, and if it sort of adds up to our time period. Perhaps they need to summon this thing every so often.
But the pieces were destroyed and separated.
Well, not destroyed, but yeah, they were separated.
The statue itself, I imagine, was destroyed, and then they separated it out, and they didn't care to look.
Well, the statue was worn by Sedefkar, so when he expired, I guess the pieces might have just fallen apart. I don't know.
Oh my god, Dr. Dawkins, you've just something's clicked. Sedefkar disappeared. What if the statue is Sedefkar? What if he wore it and he transferred himself into it and then it got separated?
I don't know. It sounds like one of those pulp stories. Next thing, somebody's going to have some piece of jewelry that they imbibe themselves in, and it gets separated.
Eldridge, do an idea roll.
You got it, boss.
My wonder is what is this Garaznet chap?
That is a
have to do with the whole
pass.
thing?
In La Magia del Diavolo, Sedefkar was wearing the Sedefkar simulacrum, but they the soldiers in the story could see by the glinting of the light that he was wearing it, and they aimed their attack, and they actually ended up knocking pieces of it off. That's when they were able to kill him.
That's what happened.
So he was out and exposed. He wasn't in the armor. The armor was separated from him by then.
So he did literally expire.
At least that's what the story says.
Yes, I believe in the story, the very handsome knight plunged his sword into the chap's neck.
But we don't.
His throat neck.
But we don't know if that really did actually kill him. We've seen a correlation, as Frank says, about these people almost cheating death.
Well, supposedly, I mean, we know they can certainly live for a very long time.
I'm trying to think. Is it only? I don't know. My brain's a little bit. I'm just going to say this, but I don't think it's right. It's either when they're wearing the piece that they have this longevity, or it's just basically like a replacement of body parts that gives them the longevity. I can't quite remember.
I think it's they replace pieces.
Well, are you guys about ready to break?
I believe so.
Yeah.
All right. Not quite as dramatic as the moment we had a few
No,
months ago, but
They don't.
Fresh in our brain.
you guys are working on the problem. So our players included Thomas McKeon, Mick Swan, Jeff Wilkins, and Wayne Worthy, with myself as the keeper of the secrets. We're currently producing 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. Patrons of our show can now enjoy recordings of our pre- and post-game conversations when we first publish them. Some of the funniest and most interesting stuff occurs before and after the show. If you'd like to become a patron, visit our Patreon account. Just $1 or $2 a month will help us a lot. And by next week, I will be having fiber optics, so we should be able to clear up some of the glitchiness of the show. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We love hearing from you. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.